There is a moment, somewhere between Earth and the outer solar system, where the sun stops feeling like a sun. It becomes a bright star, still the brightest thing in the sky, but cold, distant. Just a point of light among other points of light. And ahead of you, slowly growing in the black, is something that should not exist. A planet so large it could swallow every other world in this solar system and still have room. A machine of gas and storm and electricity, spinning so fast its equator bulges outward from the force, banded in cream and rust and amber. Beautiful in a way that feels ancient, alien. Wrong. You are descending toward Jupiter. And in the next few minutes, you are going to understand exactly why that is a death sentence, not from one thing, but from everything at once. Because Jupiter doesn't have a single way to kill you. It has layers of them, and they get worse the deeper you go. This isn't a story about a malfunction or a miscalculation. This is what the planet itself would do to you. Deliberately, systematically, completely. Let's start from the outside and work our way down. From orbit, Jupiter is breathtaking. You can see the great red spot from thousands of kilometers away, a storm that has been spinning for at least 350 years, possibly much longer. It is wider than the entire Earth. Inside that storm, winds reach 500 kilometers per hour. And that's not even considered unusual for Jupiter. That's just the weather. The planet rotates once every 10 hours. 10 hours for something 11 times wider than Earth. That means the equatorial cloud tops are moving at roughly 45,000 kilometers per hour relative to the planet's core. The physics of that rotation shape everything. The banding, the jet streams, the layered atmospheric chaos that looks almost decorative from a safe distance. From orbit, it looks like a painting. But here's the problem. You're not staying in orbit. Your first encounter with Jupiter doesn't start at a surface. There is no surface, not in any sense that would help you. Jupiter is almost entirely hydrogen and helium, compressed by gravity into states that have no name in everyday human experience. To land on Jupiter would mean descending through a gas giant until either the pressure crushed you, the heat melted you, or the physics of the matter itself became so extreme that the word solid stopped meaning anything. But long before any of that, the atmosphere starts. The outer cloud deck sits at roughly the point where atmospheric pressure equals what you'd feel on Earth's surface, 1 bar. That sounds manageable. It isn't. Because even here, at what you might consider the top of Jupiter's atmosphere, the winds are violent in a way that ground-based storms cannot prepare you for. The jet streams don't blow in clean horizontal bands. They shear and interact and produce vertical turbulence that would tear an unprepared vessel apart like paper. The Galileo probe, an actual spacecraft built by NASA, designed specifically to enter Jupiter's atmosphere, deployed a parachute and descended. It survived for 58 minutes before the pressure and heat destroyed it. 58 minutes. And it never came close to reaching anything we'd call a core. You would not last 58 minutes. Not even close. Here's what happens to your body in the first few seconds of unprotected exposure. Jupiter's upper atmosphere contains ammonia ice crystals and ammonium hydrosulfide, a compound that, among other things, smells like a mixture of ammonia and rotten eggs, and is deeply toxic to human tissue. But you wouldn't have time to register the smell. The temperature at the cloud tops is around -145 degrees Celsius. You would lose consciousness from cold and atmospheric poisoning almost simultaneously. But let's assume, for the purpose of understanding what's below, that you have a ship. A perfect ship. Sealed, pressurized, built for this. You're going down. As you descend through the first cloud layer, visibility drops to almost nothing. The clouds are not light and fluffy. They're dense, dark, and electrically charged. Jupiter produces some of the most powerful lightning in the solar system, bolts estimated to be 5 times as powerful as the strongest lightning on Earth. NASA's Juno spacecraft, which orbits Jupiter and has done repeated close passes, detected radio signals from these lightning events in patterns that suggest they occur thousands of times per second across the planet. You are flying through that. The turbulence is not atmospheric inconvenience, it is structural violence. Your ship is being hit by pressure waves, shear forces, electrical discharge. The instruments are screaming. Every reading is wrong in the sense that everything is at its maximum value and still climbing. And you have only descended a fraction of the way into the atmosphere. But it gets worse. Below the ammonia cloud layer, the atmosphere gets stranger. The temperature begins to rise. The pressure climbs past 1 bar, 5 bars, 10 bars. At 10 atmospheres of pressure, the force on every square centimeter of your hull is 10 times what you feel at sea level on Earth. Deep-sea submarines operating in Earth's oceans can withstand maybe 600 atmospheres before catastrophic failure becomes likely. Jupiter's pressure will pass that level. It just takes a while. Deeper still, around the 100-bar level, still nowhere near the core, the hydrogen begins to change. It compresses and heats until it stops behaving like a gas. It becomes a supercritical fluid, a state of matter that is neither liquid nor gas, but has properties of both. There is no surface to land on because the atmosphere itself transitions into something else entirely, gradually, without a clear boundary. This is the part that disturbs people the most. You would not crash into Jupiter. You would not hit anything. You would sink, slowly, then faster, as the surrounding medium became denser, as if the planet were swallowing you. Not through violence, but through physics. Calmly, completely. If you think about it too long, it starts to feel like something deliberate. If you're still watching and this is getting under your skin, that's what this channel does. Subscribe, because we go further than most are willing to follow. Let's talk about the pressure that would actually end you.
The threshold for human survival without any protection is around 3 to 4 atmospheres. Professional deep-sea divers work at pressures around 30 atmospheres with specialized equipment and extensive decompression protocols. Military submarines can go to perhaps 100 atmospheres before catastrophic failure becomes likely. Jupiter's pressure at the core, or what we think is a core, because we have never seen it, is estimated at 40 to 60 million atmospheres. That number is so large that it stops feeling like a number. At 40 million atmospheres, hydrogen stops being hydrogen in the way we understand it. It becomes metallic hydrogen, a state where electrons are stripped from their atoms and flow freely, turning the hydrogen into a conductor. This is what generates Jupiter's magnetic field, one of the most powerful in the solar system. A magnetic field so enormous it extends past Saturn's orbit. The volume of space dominated by Jupiter's magnetic influence is larger than the Sun. You are not just descending into a planet, you are descending into a magnetic machine, a pressure engine, a place where the fundamental states of matter themselves are reorganized by gravity alone. Your body, at those pressures, would not compress. It would not implode in the dramatic way movies suggest. The pressure would simply prevent all biological functions simultaneously. Every cell membrane, every chemical gradient, every electrical signal in your nervous system, all of it requiring a specific range of physical conditions that no longer exist at that depth. Death would not feel like anything. There is no mechanism by which consciousness continues at those pressures. You would not experience the core. You would simply stop before you reached it. But here is the layer of this that most people miss. Even if you somehow survived the descent, even in some imagined future with technology we cannot currently conceive, you would still be trapped, because Jupiter's gravity at the cloud tops is already 2.5 times Earth's surface gravity. To escape from deep inside the atmosphere, from where the pressure is thousands of times higher, require an energy expenditure that no plausible propulsion system could provide. The escape velocity from Jupiter is 60 kilometers per second. The fastest spacecraft humanity has ever launched, Helios 2, reached around 70 kilometers per second relative to the Sun, and that was achieved through a carefully planned gravitational assist from the Sun itself, requiring months of trajectory planning and perfect conditions. No engine you could carry into Jupiter could produce the sustained thrust needed to climb back out through an atmosphere that is actively crushing you from all sides. You go in, you do not come back out. There is no version of this that ends differently. This is what physicists mean when they say Jupiter is not a planet you visit. It is a gravity well that accepts deposits. And then there's the radiation. Jupiter's magnetic field doesn't just extend far into space. It traps charged particles from the solar wind and accelerates them into belts of intense radiation that surround the planet. These belts are so intense that the Galileo spacecraft, again, a machine specifically designed for this environment, suffered significant radiation damage to its instruments over its 8-year mission. The radiation environment near Jupiter's innermost moons is lethal to unshielded electronics within hours. For a human body, unprotected, a radiation dose in Jupiter's inner magnetosphere would be lethal in minutes, not days, minutes. The most radiation-hardened spacesuits NASA has ever considered would survive for perhaps a few hours in that environment before failing. And you would still be in orbit. You would not yet have touched the atmosphere. This means that even the approach to Jupiter, even the act of flying through its radiation belts on the way down, would begin killing you before you ever entered the clouds. You arrive at the descent point, already dying. There is a thought experiment that planetary scientists sometimes use when talking about gas giants. It asks, what would happen if a human being in a sealed pressurized bubble were placed in Jupiter's atmosphere at the 1 bar level, the point where pressure is roughly Earth-like? The answer is illuminating. The gravity would make movement almost impossible. The temperature would be around -100 degrees. The wind would be traveling at hundreds of kilometers per hour. The turbulence would be structurally catastrophic. The electrical environment would be constantly generating discharge events around the bubble. The chemistry of the atmosphere would corrode the seal over time, and there would be no way back up. Even in the most theoretically benign layer of Jupiter's atmosphere, survival fails on every axis simultaneously. There is no foothold, no stable ground, no calm zone, no shelter. The entire planet is hostile from the outermost wisp of cloud to whatever lies at its core. It does not have a safe layer. It does not have a welcome altitude. It is hostile from edge to center, consistently, completely, without exception. We have sent one thing into Jupiter's atmosphere. One, the Galileo probe, launched in 1995, arrived at Jupiter in 1995, entered the atmosphere on December 7, 1995, survived 58 minutes, transmitted data on temperature, wind speed, lightning, and pressure until the signal died. It transmitted for 58 minutes. Then, Jupiter swallowed it. We haven't sent anything else into Jupiter's atmosphere since, not because we haven't wanted to, because nothing we build survives long enough to justify the cost. There's something that sits with you when you think about Jupiter long enough. We live on a thin crust of rock orbiting an ordinary star in one arm of one galaxy among hundreds of billions. We consider ourselves spacefaring. We have walked on the moon. We have sent probes to every planet in this solar system. We have pointed instruments at stars 1,000 light years away and measured the chemical composition of their atmospheres. And yet there is a planet 600 million kilometers from here, a neighbor by cosmic standards, that we cannot enter, that we cannot land on, that we cannot survive for even an hour. A place that exists within our own solar system, close enough that a spacecraft can reach it in under 2 years, and it is as lethal, as inaccessible, as fundamentally inhuman as the surface of a neutron star. Jupiter does not care that we evolved. Jupiter does not care that we built telescopes and wrote equations and learned to see it clearly from afar. Observation is not the same as access. Understanding is not the same as survival. We can look at it. We have always been able to look at it. The ancients could see it with their naked eyes and named it for a god. They were right to do that. It is a place that belongs to forces larger than life. And from this distance, from this thin crust of rock, that might be the safest thing any of us will ever say about it.